live.
Hello, 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 High Vibes family. We have somebody really special here with us today, and we are so happy. Her name is Sally Norton, and it's the Toxic Superfoods. And we've got a lot to learn. You know, that pyramid that we've been fed a line of bull with, this talks about all those things. For years, I called them neurotoxins, but what they are oxalates. And Sally, we would like so much to welcome you to the High Vibes Up family. And Miss Candy, you are looking good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Would you like to get, you know what, let's just like you said, let's say why we reached out to you, Sally. And it is because we're eating these things that they say are healthy and the best thing in the world for us. And quite frankly, we feel like shit. And we're like, okay, but I've been, juicing this celery juice for a year and I don't feel any better. I was trying to get rid of Hashimoto's. And I did it so much easier as soon as I stopped juicing the celery juice. Could you give us a little insight on that? Tell us what you've been doing and how you've come across all of this. Oh, I don't hear her. I don't hear her.
That's me.
Oh, there you go.
I,
Hi.
getting off to a great start here.
It's all
No,
good.
really, like its whole thing is so baffling. And the more you think you know, the harder it is to learn something new. You become so enthralled with what you know and what's so that penetrating your brain with new information is kind of hard. And so I raked myself along the coals, not having this information at all and not having a clue. I knew enough about oxalates, which is this natural chemical that plants make that's in nature. It's one of many natural toxins. To think about the concept of a natural toxin is really lost its place in our heads.
Right.
We've forgotten that nature has to be toxic to do what nature does. You can't go out there in the woods and start eating mushrooms and have that be a good thing. You can't. You can't let the children eat the yew berries on your bushes and chew on the random things growing in your yard. You would immediately intervene and have a child spit out anything they put in their mouth that was an unknown plant, because most plants in nature are toxic, right? But
Right.
this concept and the variety of plants and the whole background about plants and using them as food it's just assumed that it doesn't matter in my education in nutrition. So it turns out that I wasn't taught that, they're actually not studying this enough to recognize that we're accumulating crystals from this toxin that we eat. Like, we eat enough of this toxin and things that we think are fine and safe and even beneficial. And those are pathological deposits, electroactive crystals, micro and nanoparticles, crystals in your tissues. And the most common place for those crystals to be are somewhere between your kidneys and your thyroid glands.
Well,
By the time we die, we all have these crystals in both of those glands. In the kidneys, that excretion that cleans the blood and we pee through kidney action, and then the thyroid gland, which is one of the master glands of the body that helps orchestrate all your metabolism and your well-being and your ability to sleep and wake up and all these things. The thyroid is directly, in fact, all the glands of the body are in danger of picking up this natural toxin and having it get stuck in those tissues and become microparticles and nanoparticles. And that's strictly a choice we're making based on what we put in our bodies. The food we eat helps that to happen.
So let's just, if we look at it logically, right? The foods naturally have, I keep saying neurotoxins, but they have toxicity level oxalates in whatever food it is. Let's say it's a carrot or a beet or a cauliflower or those little things that smell like ass. What are they called? Sorry. The little cabbage balls.
Brussels sprouts?
Yes. Oh my God. It's like, it smells like, the trash people don't eat it. Okay, so, and okay, so we look at all those toxins in those things that they just grow in them. And then on top of that, we've got them spraying shit all over the tops of them. And
Right.
now we have those other toxic chemicals. What are those called?
The glyphosate and the herbicide.
Glyphosate.
So it
Oxalate
turns out that
and
glyphosate, the newer version that was repatented, your patent runs out, so you have to reformulate your product.
Yeah.
So when they reformulated it, they added oxalate to the glyphosate to help the glyphosate stick to the plant. So you get additional oxalate with the glyphosate that's on your plants that are loaded with natural oxalate, but they're not all loaded with it. There are some foods in the produce aisle that are pretty darn low in oxalate. All the lettuces don't have much in it at all. Most of the leafy greens don't have a lot in them. The whole cabbage family is pretty low, but you're right, the Brussels sprouts are a little bit more. And
Yeah.
some of the kales are a little bit more, but compared to the really bad ones, which is spinach, chard, and beet greens. But spinach, chard, and beet greens have been heralded for being dark. Their darkness makes them superheroes, but they're actually super toxic neurotoxins. Oxalate is a classic neurotoxin in every way, shape, and form. And we actually knew this by about, I would say, 1830s. By the 1830s, we're well aware that this was a neurotoxin. That would be
long.
like 200 years ago.
That
So
long.
our food pyramid was designed for us? Is that?
The food pyramid is really funny because we've had many different attempts to come up with a how to fill your plate advice for 100 years. And it was 9 food groups and then 7. And then we had the 4 food groups, and the 4 food groups weren't good enough. So we started designing the pyramid, which comes out like a triangle. It's not really a pyramid, but
Right.
that became a whole political process. And all along, the nutrition field would find out, oh, well, if you're under 10% fat, then all these metabolic things happen. But people can't eat 10% fat, so let's tell them 30% fat. So they just make up shit, and then they call it science, and both ends. Like, oh, it's amazing. Like, oh, margin's fine. Oh, we knew by the 30s that feeding spinach to kids was really dangerous, that they would get devastating deficiencies in calcium and probably iron if you gave spinach to young growing children. This was pretty established in the 1930s. And yet, what they decided to do, at the time, the biggest voice there was an arm of the medical world, because back then the medical world knew nutrition was part of healthcare. And they would come out with like these monthly different arms of medicine, had like monthly journals and stuff. And so one of the important, most influential journal at the time said, well, we know that spinach is really bad, but the greens generally are pretty good, so we just won't call it out. So we're just going to let it be part of the leafy greens and not call it out. Is like spinach should not be fed to children. I mean, that was an irresponsible call. Nobody called them on it, and the nutrition field never protested. They just like decided to ignore oxalates over and over and over again.
And if you go down the baby food aisle, they've got peaches and spinach, apples and spinach, and they got all these different things that they mix spinach into to try to get that goodness into your baby.
So,
it makes me
It's
crazy.
really criminal that we don't know that that's dangerous. The sweet potatoes are another problem. That's often baby's first solid food is sweet
Yep,
potatoes.
that's what I gave my daughter.
And now they're making these little baby cracker crunchy things that are full of quinoa and buckwheat and
Oh, no.
seeds. And now parents are giving almond milk to children. They don't recognize that almond milk is just like water that's with highly processed almonds into a dangerous product that has very little nutritional value. And yet it's called milk. And so they assume they can just replace dairy milk, which has protein, calcium, all kinds of vitamins and minerals in there. They're replacing a non-nutritive soup of almond juice that's been highly processed, thinking that it's an okay, in fact, healthy substitute. They're told almonds are a healthy fat, and it's great profit, but it's not good nutrition for children.
Candy, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. You know how, like Diane, you are, remind me what that is when you just eat meat? That's
Carnivore?
carnivore, right?
Not this
And-
week.
And I do better on vegetables, very little grains, and no meat. So all of us have different things. I do very well on almond milk. So my question is, are some people more susceptible to the oxalates than others? Just like some people do better on some type of foods than others.
Well, it wouldn't be right to equate oxalate to food because oxalate is a toxin just like mercury. You wouldn't say some people should have more mercury than others. Other people can't handle mercury. So that in itself, just because it's in a food doesn't make it a food itself. It's a chemical that's dangerous. And it's true that our tolerance, like how much oxalate you have to eat for it to be lethal dose to drop you dead today, varies between 5 grams, which would be about 9 spinach smoothies maybe, to 15, which would be you could have 30 spinach smoothies before you
Oh,
dropped it.
my.
And that would be the same day. Now, if you have your 30 spinach smoothies spread out over a month, you're just slowly causing problems under the radar. Your body is busy compensating, and keeping your electrolytes even in your blood and doing its best. And in the meantime, you're developing osteoporosis. You'll eventually have arthritis. You'll eventually have crystals in your thyroid gland. You might just suddenly drop dead of a heart attack or develop heart disease or have a stroke or have a kidney stone. And all along, there was no symptoms of it building up. Most diseases are fairly silent until you get into the end stage.
True.
And some people appear to be good on the surface, and it's really easy to like fake our way through it because the body's busy trying to fake its way through it and like smiling all day long and pretending you're not wrecking it and not telling you enough, and we don't know enough to connect. Here's an example from my own experience. After I quit my vegan diet, after I quit my vegetarian diet, then I went vegan. So 16 years of these things, and I'm now having trouble eating the wheat and the beans, and I'm looking for starch. I'm having to get off of the wheat and beans. And when you have no wheat and beans and you're vegan, you're like, can't be vegan anymore. So I added sweet potatoes in to replace all that tofu and beans and rice and wheat. Mostly it was the bread. I was kind of a bread addict. So being the bready carb addict I needed these sweet potatoes. And I eventually, right away, things were happening. Sweet potato is a high oxalate food, and things were happening that I had no idea was because I was now taking my poor, beleaguered, undernourished body and adding more oxalate than ever. I developed wrinkles in my eyes. I started getting little brown spots forming on my body, which the dermatologist later told me were age spots. I was horrified because I'm like 34 years old. What? And I developed a lump on my head, and I started developing pain in my shoulder blades at night, at bedtime. This rhomboid muscle area. And I was like, I couldn't fall asleep unless someone would like dig into that area and try to get it to let go so I could sleep. So that was going on. I never connected the sweet potatoes. And then later on, as things progressed, at bedtime, because I would often eat these things for dinner. Imagine a 6 p.m. dinner. Bedtime's at 10, right? So 4 hours after you've eaten something, this is actually the peak of oxalate levels coming out of your stomach and upper and small intestines into your blood, into your kidneys, throughout your body. Your whole nervous system is at 4 hour point is at the most toxic it's going to be from that particular meal. Now you start seeing toxic effects in 40 minutes. And I want to tell you about that 40-minute study in a minute. So remind me to come back around to that. But going back to my story of bedtime at 10 after sweet potatoes for dinner, I would lay in bed and I would start belching and or hiccuping. One would kick off the other one. I'm not sure which one always started first. I think it was the hiccups first, and it was like breaking bone. It was so uncomfortable. It was awful. And I never knew, that hiccups were a neurotoxicity symptom until I was reading in the literature, and that oxalates cause neurotoxicity that causes hiccups, and that people who are about to die or go into kidney failure from oxalate from eating starfruit juice, there's a lot of studies from Brazil and South Asia on starfruit deaths and from drinking starfruit juice, because that's the spinach of those countries. Like if you're sick, you go get starfruit juice. And the last symptom before the human or the rat in the studies that were looking into this process was hiccups. They get hiccups and then they die. I had that every single night, and I didn't even know that hiccups was neurotoxicity. But what it is the nerves are now hyperstimulated and they're kind of on, and that on is causing muscle spasms, because what makes a muscle move is the nerves. The nerves tell the muscle to move. So that spasming nerves cause the spasming muscles, which causes this some kinds of twitter flutters, and it can be hiccups, it can be constipation, it can be intestinal blockage.
Oh my God.
It can be reflux, acid reflux, it can be twitters in your face. You know, sometimes people get this little thing where the muscles like wobbling around. That's a neurotoxicity symptom, because the muscles are now going.
Wait a
You are
minute.
flipping
Seriously?
me
Because
out.
I thought that twitch was a vitamin or mineral deficiency.
Well, anything that causes a nerve to misfire. And what would be in the cell's mind the worst deficiency of all would be calcium deficiency, magnesium and other ions. But calcium is the favorite partner for oxalate. So oxalate devastates calcium balance on either side of the cell. It causes cells to be either overflooded with calcium or lose calcium. It causes all kinds of membrane damage. It turns up oxidative stress, and that gets the nerve toxicity going. It gets the mast cells going. A lot of neurological symptoms can be the inflammatory response to the cell damage, or the inflammatory response to the crystals that start forming in these tissues that are getting damaged by the oxalates. And then the oxalates start sticking there and starts building up, and then there's crystals there. And now you have like perma junk in your tissues that annoys the immune system, that's constantly asking the immune system to deal with it. And so now you've got this hyped up immune system, and you get all kinds of crazy stuff happening, which is neurotoxic. And that's where you get the anxiety and the worried personalities and the neuroses and the apathy and the irritable personalities and all this kind of yucky stuff with the brain and mood is neurotoxicity, which is this combination of cell damage and inflammation, and a cycle of it becomes a chronic problem of chronic.
You are blowing my mind.
Yeah. Seriously.
So real quick. So every time I eat white rice, like basmati rice, I put it in a little rice cooker. I don't cook it I don't make it very often. It's just like, oh my God, I got to cook for me and my mom and my husband. What could I do that's just fast and I could, and then get some meat, because they are not used to just meat yet. And as soon as I put that rice in my mouth and I just start chewing it, I will immediately hiccup every single time.
So
Does that mean?
So because you're see, then the whole alimentary canal, the mouth and the stomach and the intestines, they're all sentient sensory beings. Like your nose can smell, your eyes can see. The tasting that's going on is not always conscious tasting, but there's an unconscious knowingness going on here. So there's a number of different mechanisms that could be happening. One of them is that you have trained your mast cells to be kicked off by the rice. You maybe have developed kind of a rice allergy.
Yeah.
Body just knows, oh, this gets the mast cells going every time. Here we go. And they just, mast
What's
cells
a
are
mast
tricky.
cell?
The mast cells are they're one of the sensory cells that are standing guard of your tissues. They hang out by the nerves. They hang out in the bladder. They hang out in the mucous membranes. There are a lot of them near the brain because they're in the nerves. And they are little soldiers who are very defensive of you. And they get very upset if they think something terrible is happening. So if you have a really negative thought and you go off in this negative point, then the mast cells start listening to you. And you can get a rash and you can get a reaction even from just a mental state, let alone like you go outside this time of year. It's like fall allergies now with like goldenrod and whatever. And some people are super sensitive. That can get the mast cells going. But you may have developed like a rice allergy. One thing about the high oxalate diet is a lot of us end up with a lot of weird food reactions over time. We have so trashed our gut and our immune systems and our nervous system that we are having bizarro intolerances to lots of random foods. And so that's where you do end up like, well, meats aren't agreeing with me and the rice isn't agreeing with me and this doesn't agree. And after a while, you just know in order for you to function and have enough energy and get anything done, you just have to kind of work around those things until you can get it to settle down again.
Candy, did you want to say something?
No, I'm actually just looking at her book.
An excellent reference book, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, I wanted to bring a Sharpie, a highlighter with me, and it's like, oh, well, I would have half of this page highlit. Now I'm gonna have to figure out, you know, this color is for this and that color is for another thing, because it's like.
That's exactly why you need the paper book, though, because you might as well just turn it into your own workbook and play with it.
I love this.
Did you buy that as a spiral?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Someone else is doing that, not Random House, and it's not me. Someone else is able to get, this is how it works in book sales. I don't know if they're buying cases of them and adding the spiral bind, and then I don't know who's.
It says Rodale Books, New York.
Yeah, well, what they probably did was get this version and then cut off the binder.
I don't know. It seems, well, maybe.
Well, yeah,
I
it's
brought
really
I brought
interesting.
books like this in and had a spiral put on it,
This
and
wasn't the spiral you can add to it, but that spiral one that you can get online is just somebody's kind of product.
I thought I bought it off of your website.
You thought you bought it off Amazon, yeah.
No, I thought I bought it off your website. I don't remember though.
Yeah, so anyway, it's so interesting to see that thing in person because
Oh, wow.
it's really
Ta-da.
interesting. The book is interesting enough to the scammers that there's like 15 or 20 little scammy products out there.
It
And
says BTW Global LLC, Washington,
oh yeah?
North Carolina.
Hmm. I don't know who that is.
I don't either, but that's where I got it. I actually had it still in the book. As soon as I got the book, I showed it to my mom. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. That's the shipper. Okay.
My mom snagged the book. She had it for like a month, and I'm like, "Can I get that book back?" And I said, I gotta, you know, my mom she's not interested in much. And so she was interested in your book and she thought it was fascinating. So I just let her keep it until, you know, I needed to peel it out of her fingers.
I'm so happy to meet people who read books. It's so exciting.
You know what? I wish I read more books. I wish I had more time to read books.
Me too.
And the other thing is I really truly wish that my eyesight were better. It is but
Oxalates, getting them out of your diet helps a lot of us get better eyesight. That's so many surprises.
How
When
do
I
we-
go back to that 40-minute thing, I want to talk
yes,
about
40-minute thing.
the eyes. Let's do the eyes since we're on the
Yes,
eyes.
please.
There's just so many things to talk about. We can't cover them
I
all.
know.
But, you know, I was running into real problems with night vision before I knew about oxalates. And luckily, for me and most of my followers, their night vision gets way better.
Oh my gosh.
What I didn't know is that people can reverse their cataracts. Now, not all cataracts are this inflammation that the oxalates are causing in the eyes, but I've had at least 3, if not more, clients tell me that their cataracts are gone. I've had people tell me they no longer need their glasses for driving. I've had one person say her son's vision is his prescription is half what it was before. He's, I don't know, a 10-year-old kid or something. So
Oh my.
yeah, it's very amazing. The eyes are right up there with the thyroid gland and the kidneys in harm's way with a high oxalate diet.
How do we, I mean, what do we do to get rid of the specs? I mean, I mean,
Well, it's
where is it?
no guarantee that who it's going to help. I mean, it's kind of let's give the eyes the best chance we can by stop poisoning them with oxalate. One thing you need to do is get down on the vitamin C supplements. They are high vitamin C turns into oxalate in the body. The food level that you can get from fruits and vegetables is good, but taking vitamin C supplements causes high oxalate in the body because vitamin C turns into oxalate.
So that's not good.
That's not good for your eyes. People think vitamin C must be good for their eyes. It's not. You need a little vitamin C, but not the amount that are in the supplements. So let's do the 40-minute thing, because this is goes back to Candy's question about who is it affecting and who is it not affecting, or maybe affecting Diane and Sally, but Candy's good. She didn't want to be affected by oxalate. I vote for you, Candy. I would love you to not be affected by oxalate, but I cannot tell you that you aren't. I think the entire human race doesn't even know its capacity for health, wellness, performance, great vision, because we're all growing up on potatoes, peanuts, whole grains, spinach, sweet potatoes, chocolate. By the time you're one, you're now going to be introduced to chocolate cake, and your first food is some kind of sweet potato, and so on. Like, we've never really tried in the last 400, 500, 600 years that we've been playing with these high oxalate foods, many of which, by the way, we've only had for 100 years in a diet. But that's another story. That we don't know what you could really be and do, and how you could perform and think and find peace and harmony in your own life and your own day, experience calm and not be anxious if we
weren't poisoned from the womb on.
From the womb on. It actually
Oh my
crosses
God.
the blood-brain barrier, it crosses the placenta. In animals, high oxalate forage in cattle and sheep causes miscarriages and stillbirths and problems. So from conception on, we're marinating in too much oxalate for what we can handle. And here's that 40-minute
40
story.
minutes.
So a really top-notch young research group that's up and coming at the University of Alabama in Birmingham gave 40 volunteers a modest spinach smoothie that had about 720 milligrams of oxalate. It was like fruit and spinach. And they took their blood 40 minutes later, and they found that in the circulating blood, the immune cells there, the monocytes, were in over 70% of the. This is only 40 minutes. Remember, I told you when is the peak of the oxalate toxicity? 4 hours, right? 4 hours, but we're only 40 minutes. We're just like half an hour plus into the 4-hour rising. So we're just at the early stage of the oxalate leaving the stomach. In
Right.
40 minutes, the food has just left the stomach. It's enough in the blood that those circulating immune cells are now severely damaged with oxidative stress and inflammation. They're putting out cytokines that says, help me, I'm damaged. And they are now not able to handle infection and kill, because they themselves are the subject of needing help and repair. That's only 40 minutes, and 70% of those. Now, give it another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, you can bet probably 100% of the subjects would have damaged cells in their blood. So that's a lot of humanity. I don't think we should say, oh, well, don't worry until you get kidney stones, or until you need glasses, or until you need thyroid medication, or until you find out you have osteoporosis. Why would you be cavalier about something that's easy? It's actually pretty easy to get around this. You have total, unlike many toxins, you really have total control once you have the information in your hands about how much oxalate you consume. And that's not true with mercury and lead and cadmium and arsenic. Like, it's hard to know where it is and how much you're getting.
That's insane. The first time I saw you, I'm like, I literally sat there with my mouth hanging open like I've been doing here. And, it's just, honestly, it's just unfucking believable what we've been trained to believe and how we were so easily led to it.
Not easily. I mean, they've spent years poisoning us with fluoride, to name one. They've spent generations doing that. And as Sally said, it goes from digestion to the baby. So every generation has got some stuff that they're already born with and having problems. Otherwise, why would a child be born with issues immediately? Why do surgeons have to go in and have surgery on babies in the mother's womb? Because it's not only this physical stuff, but it's the spiritual and the mental and the emotional stuff that they have hid from us for a long, long time. So, Diane, we're looking at like a diamond. There's so many facets. It's not just flat. It's all the way around with layers.
Yep.
And everything counts. Everything.
Well, I'd say the easiest way to, get us all to ignore toxins is just keep us happy enough with convenience. So, oh, this plastic bottle's light, get it in plastic and just drink plastic through your whole pregnancy. Like, it should be labeled not pregnancy safe to drink out of plastic water bottles. The basic things. It's not there for us. And this is a more sophisticated topic, but we've known about oxalate in science since the late 1600s. And in the late 1700s, we were using oxalic acid as a industrial reagent to clean fibers and to develop textiles, to bleach wood, to clean leather. All the factories used it. It became a household cleaner. You could go get the salts of lemon to polish brass and to bleach your clothes and all the things you could do with it. It was a household cleaner. It still is. If you have Barkeeper's Friend, you're using oxalic acid to clean your sink. And the company brags on Barkeeper's Friend it's coming from a natural substance, so therefore it's a natural cleaner.
Oh my
That doesn't mean you shouldn't wear gloves because it'll give you arthritis. If you're handling that cleaner in bare hands every day to clean your sink, it's not going to be good for your joints.
Which cleaner is that?
Barkeeper's Friend is an oxalic acid cleaner, as is Zud, as are wood bleaches. If you're into antique refinishing, if you're in a car shop and you want to fix an old radiator, use oxalic acid there to take the rust out of the radiator. You can use the oxalic acid to take the rust out of your patio. You know how the metal chairs will leave stains on the patio. Let's use some spinach smoothie on that and that'll lift it.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Are you familiar? I've just got to ask this question. Are you familiar with Dr. Sebi?
That sounds familiar. Not very closely, obviously. Yeah.
So Dr. Sebi has a non-mucus food list, basically. And what's going through my mind is he promotes a lot of vegetables, but the things that don't produce mucus within the body. And I'm wondering, was he familiar with oxalates? So,
it's been off the radar for everybody, really. And oxalate promotes, especially when the body's trying to release it out of the tissues, that promotes mucus production. And you'll get mucus production from too much oxalate, and you'll get infections. Like I used to get sinus infection every year, usually New Year's Eve or the day before New Year's Eve. I would come down with a sinus infection from age 17 until I started this diet for real when I was 49. And now I haven't had a single sinus infection since. We see this all the time where people have chronic infections, UTIs or UTI symptoms, yeast infections, sinus infections, ear infections, and then all that tendency to get infections disappears when you get rid of the high oxalate diet.
Wow.
You know, I had the same thing when I was in junior high and high school. I would get strep throat at least twice a year. Sinus infections, ear infections, you name it.
That was me as a kid. And they ripped out my tonsils at age 5 because, I was constantly needing penicillin for these streps and the ear stuff, and barred from the swimming pool several times because of the ear.
Oh, wow.
I used to easily get swimmer's ear. I don't get that anymore. But I think that's what clued me into health really mattered, because I was being barred from the pool and being forced to have this liquid penicillin on a spoon as a little kid. And then the tonsils out. The tonsils was the end of the road. I was like, this is awful. And I think that made me kind of a health nut, because I wanted to do whatever I could to not be barred from the pool. Having a productive, fun life would be a goal of mine, and it always has been.
Right? Who wants to wake up in the morning and say, I hate my life?
Right.
We don't.
We don't. And that's, to me, this has been one of the hugest surprises of all. The infections are surprising, the osteoporosis is surprising, the hiccups are surprising, but the amount of mental health problems that are getting better, the number of people, this was the main thing back in the 1840s when this was first a thing, and they described this illness. They would carry on about all the mood and sort of neuroses and mental changes in the patient who has now had this oxalate poisoning from the rhubarb back in the 1840s. And it's really true. I'm seeing that play out here in the 2020s, where people tell me things like, I've been in counseling for anxiety every week for 30 years. And now with this diet, I don't need it at all.
Wow. So, Sally, do you mind if
That's insane.
I ask this, and please don't answer if you don't want to, but do you also eat meat?
I do eat meat. Yes, my system doesn't really get along with vegetables anymore. I went on a low oxalate diet and I was carefully switching into the low oxalate vegetables, which includes the cabbage family primarily, so the cabbage and the Chinese cabbage and the rutabaga and the turnips and the collards and the radishes and you name it, all that stuff, including those Brussels sprouts that smell, sulfury like farts.
Yeah. My
All
husband
of that
says,
stuff is like the same family. It's all the mustard family. And I was, switching out my sweet potatoes and stuff and really into vegetables. Like I have been a vegetable nut my whole life. And one Thanksgiving, I had a whole plate full of various versions, roasted radishes and mashed rutabaga and this and that. And I was sick for 3 days after Thanksgiving. And it dawned on me. I mean, I was really sick. It dawned on me that I wasn't tolerating that cabbage family at all. And then I saw some allergy tests where cauliflower and cabbage showed up, and I realized like probably that whole family just is not agreeing with me anymore. So, and then lettuce was bothering me, and this and that. So then I was really pared down to mostly meat. And then in 2019, in honor of people who were interviewing me who were promoting the carnivore diet, I thought, well, I could just stop these 3 things that aren't carnivore and try the full carnivore diet. So yes, I had been a meat eater. It took me a while after veganism to kind of get back to meat. And then I did this whole project. I got funding in North Carolina to survey local farmers who are raising meat in sustainable ways back in 2004.
oh, wow.
Got to know the local farmers and started promoting direct to consumer sales and trying to explain to consumers that it would be best to know your farmer, know how your meats are raised, and buy direct, so that's actually a living that you can sustain. We want to keep small family farms, but it's hard to make a living doing it. So if they have to sell things at wholesale, that makes the food expensive. And if you want really the best, safest, nicest food, and you want to know what the animals were, how they were cared for, and so on, learn to buy direct from farms. So I've been an advocate of that for 20 years. And that just, just gave me permission to eat enough meat in my own heart because I knew what I was eating.
When I kind of knock off the veggies and all the sugary crap, and I'll be really honest here, last Christmas about beat me up. I have not been able to kick all of that sugar. I'm telling you what is just a killer. And it's like, okay, I'll eat something that has a little bit of sweetness, or I'll just use just a little bit of honey. And you know what? Cutting sugar off cold turkey is worse than stopping smoking cold turkey. I'm telling you. But when I
quit being a vegetarian, I was a carb addict, and it really took me 3 years to stop being a carb addict. 3 years.
Yeah. So I've had a full blown year of it, and when I eat just proteins, meats, and the cleaner the better, I feel incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be 62 next month, and I run circles around most 30-year-olds that I know. And I feel so much better.
Now, when you go to your doctor with any kind of anything, they'll say, cut out the meat, cut out the meat, cut out the meat.
Of course.
But here you are, living proof. And people, unfortunately, they cancel their own experience in favor of some expert's opinion. And that's why it's so hard to discover oxalate, because we're so busy canceling out the fact that the celery juice didn't work, and this didn't work, and the spinach salads didn't work, and the smoothies didn't work, and the keto bread didn't work, and so on. And then you start eating just meat, and you obviously feel better. It's completely inside out from what everyone's telling us.
Exactly. And when my doctor did my blood tests, because she wanted me to give me Synthroid. So I read the white paper on the Synthroid, and basically all it does is tell your blood that there's a T3 and T4 in it, but it's not doing you any good at all, actually. It's just floating around in there so it could be picked up by a test. So she gave me pig thyroid. So And I could feel that at first, and then I felt nothing. And then I started doing carnivore and looking into other things and detoxing and all of that. So 2 years later, I go to the doctor because, I call her up when I know I need something and I tell her what's wrong. She doesn't even mess with me now. She's like, what is it? What do you want? Right. And so I went in, I got my
Beat her
blood.
into submission.
Yeah. So, you get all the blood tests, you just do them every now and again. Right. And she says, oh, so that pig thyroid's really working for you. And I said, oh, wow, I forgot all about that. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, I haven't taken that in 2 years. So your thyroid numbers are perfect. And I said, awesome. Did she ask me how the hell I did that? No way in hell. So, of course, you know me, I just said, would you like to know how I did that? And she says, oh, sure. So I just gave her the short version. It's just like, they don't want to know. They don't want to know.
That's been what everyone's telling me too, that the conversation with the doctor is, even when they're coming in with this and they're saying, please, please, please read this. This has been the answer to all these things I've been coming in here for years. And he's like, nah, I don't have time. Sorry.
No, because he needs people to come in for 5, 6, 7 more years.
Well, if it was
Well, you
him,
really are in a grind in medicine. It is a tough job these days to be in medicine. But it's just, I don't know how they feel good about their work, because it's really hard to see that it's doing that much good for people, the work they're doing.
but Sally, if it was their child or their loved one, they would make the time.
Yes, they would.
Yeah, they would, because now it's pulling on their heartstrings, and they're watching someone they love may not be here anymore.
Right.
They don't act and do something. That's the same situation Diane and I are in. My son's on a cancer journey, and she's taking care of her parents and helping them to thrive instead of just survive. So, can I read this?
Homework to find these answers. It's so hard to find the good answers.
Right. No, they're here. There's a ton of them right here. I urge everyone to go and grab this book, grab 2. This is a stocking stuffer. I'm telling you. Candy, you wanted to read something?
Yeah. So many people deal with this, and I just want our family to hear this. So the oxalates in neurological issues cause mental fatigue, insomnia, or other sleep problems, restless leg or aches in the legs or feet, difficulty with concentration, memory, or decision making, brain fog, attention problems or loss of organizational ability, problems with your mood, including anxiety or irritability, depression. How about this one? Tooth sensitivity, noise sensitivity, eye pain or light sensitivity, headaches, ringing ears, hiccups, clumsiness, dropping things, and bumping into things.
Holy cow.
Right?
I'm just like, okay, that's my ex-husband bumping into things, dropping things. He would always, and my mom used to have, headaches every day. I've got a sick headache. The hell was she eating when we were at school?
It's really easy to pile on potatoes every day, peanuts every day, whole wheat bread every day. It's just, and now young people are using chia and having chia bowls and this stuff that is really worthless nutritionally, but very toxic with oxalate.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in there.
Yeah.
And I could see in my mind's eye a big jar of chia seeds I have in my cupboard that I'm not using. And I keep wanting to, and it's just not calling to me.
Good.
So
I have the
it's
same
there.
thing, Candy. I have the exact same thing. They've managed to get way back in the back that I actually need a ladder to get on them so I can get them back at her.
Well, maybe you can make your own chia pets for Christmas. And
I was just going to ask, would these things cause oxalate poisoning for our chickens? Can I give the chia seeds to the chickens?
You know, I found that study from Cornell from the 1940s where they were giving oxalate, I think it was the beet tops to the chickens, and the chickens
Oh.
died from it.
You're
It's
kidding.
in one of the early chapters.
Oh, God.
Wait, say that one
Yeah.
more time.
Somewhere in my book, I wrote about the studies where because a lot of nutrition research is done on behalf of agriculture, on animal agriculture. So how can we cheaply feed chickens and cheaply feed, I mean, literally in agriculture, they feed old candy wrappers to cows. Like they put all kinds of garbage in feed, and the respectable people at universities like Cornell will study these mixes of things they can put in feed. And one of the things they put in feed is a leftover from the sugar beet industry. So you grow sugar beets so you can make sugar, and use the beet part, the starchy part, to make the sugar. And then you have all these beet greens. What are you going to do with them? You're going to try to put them in animal feed, and you can kill the animals with the beet tops. So you can see in the literature various cases where they overdid the beet tops and the animals got really sick or got miscarriages or died. And I'm not sure I can't recall what that chicken study was doing, but it was a Cornell-based study, and they gave oxalate to young chicks and looked to see how long they could live, which wasn't very long.
Oh,
So don't give the beet greens or the chia seeds to the chickens.
okay. All right. So basically, they should eat what
It's the
is
only
safe
safe
for
way
us.
to go with the chia seeds.
Oh, my God.
TD said, I was chemically poisoned at work 19 years ago, and I have all these symptoms, and nobody knows how to fix me. They just keep adding new diseases and symptoms, and et cetera, et cetera. Wow. TD, maybe you want to pick up this book and take a look at it.
Yes, please.
You know, I was surprised at how many places where the cancer came up with the oxalate research that I did, where there's these different mechanisms. There's a number of different mechanisms by which the cellular damage and the chronic inflammation that the oxalates can cause can lead to the pathology of cancer.
And how do we help those in our family that do actively have cancer right now? What would be one of the first things you would tell them?
Well, I would evaluate what's on their menu for high oxalate foods and carefully bring them down into a safer level of oxalate consumption, as I explain in part 2 of the book. And don't leave them to like full carnivore zero oxalate, because there's no oxalate to speak of nutritionally in the animal foods. So a full carnivore diet is essentially a zero oxalate diet, which is probably too big a leap because of this collection of pathological crystals. It's actually in the breast tissue, it's the immune cells' attempt to get rid of the oxalate crystals that there's other ways also this can occur. But when the immune cells under a certain milieu of, whether it's acidity or what, I don't think they have enough research to really explain when this is happening, but they have seen it happen and documented in studies that it's the immune cells getting rid of the oxalate crystals in the breast that now cause the normal breast cells to become cancer cells and also cause a calcification to occur. So you get this other form of calcium behind the oxalate crystals. Where they used to be oxalate crystals, you can now have other forms of calcium because of the immune cleanup process. And if that process doesn't go well, it also creates tumor-like cells.
So is
Go ahead,
that
Dan.
happens when you go from oxalates to zero oxalates, or?
You are asking the body to clean out the mess. Now that you've lowered your diet, that is finally, the body's been holding on and stashing this stuff because it's been coming in so fast and can't excrete it fast enough, and the tissues can't just dump it out into the bloodstream again because you're already adding it every meal, and there's no room for that. If you have too much oxalate in the blood, it'll cause a heart attack. If you have too much oxalate in the kidneys, it'll wreck the kidney function. So the body will hold on to it, waiting for lower levels in the bloodstream and in the kidneys. And when low levels happen in the bloodstream and kidneys for at least 3 days, that starts to give cells permission to start, well, hey, here's a chance we can finally get rid of this stuff. And that can turn on an inflammatory process. And you can continue to have chronic inflammation coping with crystals in the body for another 10 or 15 years after you stop, if you're like me.
So there's a way we can do this.
Yeah, what I have found
rationally.
is that some people the breast cancer does show up after they start this diet, but then when they go through treatment for the breast cancer, they recover pretty easily and they do pretty well on it. So anyone undergoing, we need more research because we don't really know how to advise people here. But I think once you're on a low oxalate diet, your body's ability to now recover from cancer and kick it out, because you're going to restore immune cells. You see, if your body is allowed to sort of not have the blood constantly bathing in oxalate, which it'll start to try to manage it with little cyclical attempts to, like, let's get some out and take a little rest, get some out and take a little rest. If you can cyclically go up and down, you can have better function of the immune system. That's why the infections go away, but also that's when you're more able to get rid of cancer just the way the body normally would with a healthy immune system. I mean, a cancer is a sign that the immune system isn't working well, right? Because it can't clear the cancer cells, and what it is doing is being so overactive that it might even be creating.
So let me just put a disclaimer that we're not doctors, and we're not financial advisors, and we're not lawyers. So this is just information. You need to make decisions for yourselves. Go to your doctors, go to your lawyers, go to your financial experts to know what you need to do and where you need to go. Okay, disclaimer over.
Okay, so I was looking at this section of the book. Oh, I found a feather. Okay. This section of the book. And it basically, here it's on page 208, and it's talking about table 14.4, the diet transition. So there's a high oxalate diet on here, and then there is a phase 1 oxalate diet. So that's kicking down the oxalate. So that's starting to lower the oxalate load, correct?
I was looking at that too.
Right.
And
so there's 3 example tables like this. There's one for the whole foods diet person, there's one for the pescatarian, and there's one for the, what's the other one? The paleo person.
right.
So sample menus that would fit those styles of eating, and then how you can modify to get into the, out of what I call the danger zone. So
Right.
the zone of intakes are explained in the previous chapter, that, we're trying to get out of this danger zone
Right.
to something, because literally,
So replacements.
right. That,
Give
I like
all
that
the
table. Which table is
information.
that one?
This one is 14.2, and this is the high oxalate food replacement of extremely high oxalate foods. This looks like it's a big book, but it's a page turner because you could find an answer in here rather quickly. I love that.
Yeah, and there's a big chunk of references in the back. They let me stick about 600 of my references in here to give people a sense of where this information comes from in the medical literature. So
Right. So
lots of reference
research is in
tables.
here.
I'm so glad to hear you say it's a page turner. I have heard people say they've read the whole book in 2 days.
So here is all of the references, because she did some serious research on this. There's serious research here, and I'm glad that they let you put that in there. To be quite honest, if my mom's gonna read this book, anybody can read this book. Seriously, Candy knows my mom.
Some people, they're so sick that just watching page of words isn't working for them. You can get an audiobook and it can be read to you. If you can
that's
handle
awesome.
the voice, this is the voice that reads the book on the audiobook.
That's awesome.
So Sally, maybe you can help me with this. So are you familiar with the book, The China Study?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I haven't read it though, but I knew him. He was my professor at Cornell.
That's
In
amazing.
fact, when I was at Cornell, he was having trouble getting funding. No one wanted to fund the crunching of his data set, so he would talk about that a lot.
Okay, so there's so much conflicting information out there, and I'm being that my son's on the cancer journey, my head is spinning as to the direction to go, because the China study doesn't seem to support this, and this doesn't seem to support that, and then
So, if I could just be bold with my opinion out
Please.
here for the wide
Please.
world. This is built out of reality. Like this happened to me and on my followers, and it's based on working with people that were finding the explanation in science. We're matching up where real science observes what's real. But the China study was born out of a conviction that casein is the cause of disease and cancer. And it's got to be the milk protein that's doing it. And the Chinese don't drink milk, so therefore the Chinese will prove that I'm right, that casein is what's causing cancer. And he's making claims that the Chinese are vegetarians or mostly vegetarians, or you should eat a vegetarian diet because the Chinese don't do casein. And none of that's true. The Chinese, they use meat broths and fish broths and everything. They almost, and nothing is fully vegetarian. There's always some kind of anchovy broth and, you know, even your basic fish sauce. They use lots of brains and fish and just dried weird stuff that in the US you don't use at all. They're really good at using all
Everything.
the animals. And they just don't waste it. They make the most of the animal stuff, and they use stock for everything. So I would say if you come to your research as an ideologue and you've got your opinion and you've already decided what's so, and you're trying to use your study to prove your point, that's not science anymore.
Okay.
That's advocacy.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I like knowing that.
It's important to know people's motives, you know. So he continued to have a salary. I spent 5 years with no income to write this book and spent cash out of pocket to write this book. People don't do that. That's why this doesn't happen, because no one's willing to live without no money except me, because I broke my life, and my whole life was a commitment to helping people be well, and I was wrong. And the only way I can make my life make sense is to make sense of why I've been wrong my whole career, because I was trained by people like Professor Campbell. He's the people who taught me to think the way I thought that made me stupid.
Yes. We all need a cure for that.
For stupid?
How brave of you.
Yes.
I mean, that was brave. I mean, that, I love that, you know, being willing to say, oh shit, I'm wrong. Or, oh my God, how much money did I spend to learn all of this stuff? And it's a lie. Let's make a left turn or a right turn here and start doing some real research. I love that. I thank you for that so much.
This is the perfect time that your information should be exploding, because people are beginning to awaken to the fact that we've been lied to about everything, and now we're all searching for the truth, because frankly, we're tired of feeling stupid. We're tired of feeling sick. We're tired of feeling taken advantage of. And we want the goddamn truth.
And I'm not going to eat a damn bug.
Stupid. If you feel stupid, that means truth is starting to dawn on you. Mm-hmm. If you're confident, then you're still dumb. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is so humbling. I feel like I know nothing. I managed to spend 5 years scrubbing the literature and thinking hard and banging my head on it. And I spent multiple Thanksgivings where the dining table on a holiday was still my book all over the place, and me sitting there reading my drafts and thinking about how to explain this, because figuring out how to explain it didn't come overnight.
Sally, that's exactly what I meant when I said we realize that we know this much. Oh, no. How did I say it? We realize we don't know anything at all, and we think we're beginning to learn, and then information that you have landed on comes out, and we realize that all the information we have is really, that's as much as we've really got. And we want more.
We want more.
Mm-hmm. And Sally, do you...
more.
Are you heading up any kind of further research, or are you looking to do something like that? What is it that you're looking to go forward with this some more? I mean, are you looking for funding? Are you looking for, you know, that type of thing? Tell us what you have. I know we're just a little over an hour here, and but I just wanted you to get that out there if you are looking.
Thank you. You know, my heart has been in research because I've worked in academia much of my career, and designing research and writing research proposals is very much part of my skill set and my interest level. And that's a distant goal. Right now, before we can get there, we need to have just help. Right now, we're trying to stick a finger in the hole in the boat. We're in a sinking boat of people are really sick. And we're trying to keep the Titanic from going down right now. And that's getting this information out. So what I'm really trying to do is finish some products from my website, finish the video course, and build up my situation so that I can have staff and have enough capacity to have enough out there. So people who are ready, when people become ready to learn, there's a way for them to do that. And I can help providers who, when people are sick, they're turning to their doctor and their massage therapist and their chiropractor and their acupuncturist and their this and their that. And then they keep going because the answers don't fully come. Once they run into somebody who knows about this topic, it might be a real easy fix for everybody. And that's what's happening now. So I feel right now I'm babysitting this darn book, spending a lot of time helping get the message out there so that we can keep us from collapsing our health. We've got grandmothers who's worried about their grandchildren being fed spinach or being on vegan diets and so on. So there's such an educational need right now. I'm still kind of stuck there, but I think this is going to launch a whole movement. And I have actually helped a couple of researchers in thinking about designs of studies. So people consult with me informally, and I don't take the time to charge them and say, you got to put me on your paper and all of that. They offer that, but I don't have even the bandwidth to quite support that in a complete way like I'd like to. But we as a community, those of us who are finding this so revelatory and so life affirming and life changing, we are building this awareness and a movement, and there's a beautiful grassroots thing happening, and I'm here to cheer everybody on at the moment.
Well, we're here to cheer you on.
Yeah, if there's ever a way that High Vibes Up and the family can help you out, reach out to Kid and Candy. And if you want to come on and talk about something new that you just discovered, or you've got a new book that you're working on and you want to get people pre-interested, or, anything to help our family, because the people that come here for truth, and they come here for a loving space. And that's how I got to know Candy. And, I'm one of those people that, I'll see something and something will just come in front of me and I know, oh, I got to check into this. I got to look into this. And, I told Candy this a couple months ago when we had our first appointment, and I'm like, we have to talk to her. She's important. And I knew it. And I still feel that exact same way. So we want to make sure that you get whatever you need heard, and just reach out to Candy and she will make that happen. I'm just the guest host here, even though I have a big mouth. So
it's lovely to be joining forces with you ladies and be part of this wave of dawning that's happening.
This is so important and it's so needed. And I honestly, this is something everyone should have started yesterday. As far as I'm concerned. And here I am, San Antonio, Texas, on a vacation and eating nothing but crap. I'm telling you, my eyes are swollen. I can't get my wedding ring on or off. So I finally got it off the other day. So I'm just wearing, a bunch of rings. So, it's so difficult to be out in the world, out of your own space, and eat well.
Mm-hmm. There's ways to do it. I've had to do it for many years, and I'll give you some tips offline. Get you empowered to be independent of the going. What's going isn't it?
So two things. Carrie asks, what's the best place to get the book?
Anywhere that you like to buy a book, really. You can get it from your local bookstore. You can make sure your library has it, but you're going to want your own copy, I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
If you want to support your local independent bookstore, go in there, call the owner and get it there. Otherwise, you can buy it from any online seller.
Okay. And the second is, I don't know what your schedule looks like. Are you pretty busy? Do you want to come back Um, Maybe we can talk about how often do you want to start teaching this type of thing. We can have another show on how to begin the change.
We could start thinking about planning a little series and work on that offline and see what we can fit in, and probably the earliest we would start that would be January.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would give us some time for discussion. That would be great.
Yeah, and it'll give you some time for a formulation, and if you were to put 20 people on this, how would you start us? That sort of thing. That would be amazing. And and how we can go about that. We would love to do that for ourselves and for the High Vibes Up family. I know we all, I know a lot of the women that follow High Vibes Up personally, and all of us have some form of medical issue or have family members with some serious issues. So
Yeah, you
we're
can
all
hardly
ears.
turn around without bumping into someone who basically has oxalate overload
Right.
all around us. It might
So
be.
is that why people, when they drink too much, they have hiccups?
That's a good question. I think there's lots of ways you can poison yourself.
No, I have a friend that is getting some crazy, I've never even heard of these kinds of chemos. I don't even know what it's called. But for like the first week he had hiccups 24 hours a day.
Oh, well, that's a whole other
And-
subject, because one of the cancer drugs has oxalate in it. Oxalate platin is an oxalate platinum drug, and that is known to cause permanent neuropathies. It's so neurotoxic.
Oh, that's why my
What's-
mom has neuropathy in her legs, the tingling and the burning and
What's
the
that called?
sensation.
I'm sorry, Diane.
Oxalate platin.
Say again.
Oxalate platin. It's an oxalate containing chemo drug. A good one to not get.
Okay.
Wow.
I didn't mean
I
to
think
cut
they
you off.
use that. I think they like
No,
that
no.
for colon cancer, especially. They tend to use it with colon cancer, I think. But I'm
Okay.
hardly
That's-
an
yeah.
oncologist.
That's what he has, yeah.
So
Wow.
Wow.
you'll end up with some kind of neurological damage in the long run if you use that oxalate containing, because it's very neurotoxic. And see, with the drug is designed to get into the cells. Unlike the food, where the body tries to not absorb it and the body tries to get rid of it, the drug is specifically targeting entry into cells. And so you're delivering 100% of the oxalate into cells. So that's why it's, even though it's a very small amount, it's very toxic. Whereas what you're eating, you only absorb a certain amount, somewhere between 10 and 50%, depending on how leaky your gut is. And then your body tries to rebuff it and your body tries to excrete it. Tries, but it's not 100% successful. At least 4% of everything you're eating collects, but with the drug, it's like 94% is getting into the cells.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
TD says that they ordered the book already.
I
Yay.
love people who are action oriented. Get it done.
They got a few of them. They love what we talk about here.
Well,
And
it's
we
really nice that
count.
you ladies say it like it is, and we're having a very real discussion.
I'm having a real hot flash right now. Wow.
Yeah.
And that hot flash can be the mast cells. And on a carnivore diet, you're going to get into these oxalate clearing cycles. And a
Yep.
hot flash can be the immune system coming on, and it might be related to your body getting rid of oxalate somewhere in your brain or head or face or who knows where.
Yeah, they ebb and flow. I'll have them, like for a week, and then they kind of disappear, and then I need to pay better attention of what I have put in my mouth.
We need to work on that. I think a lot of people struggle with that one. That is a whole discussion right there.
It's
Yeah, it
just
is.
retraining, isn't it? I mean, because
Well,
we've been taught a certain way.
practice too. You
Exactly.
have to keep coming back to, you have to have this strong stick inside your value set that says, I want to feel good, and I will do what it takes to make that happen, whatever it takes, and I will do what it takes to make that happen.
Right.
And Sometimes it's just uncool because you don't just get along, show up and be like everyone else and just blend. You got your own little lunch bag over here and you're eating some weird little thing, but you're happy and they're actually like, what is that? Can I taste that? Ooh, I took emo heart to my friend's house last week. I was like, ooh, have you ever had emo heart? Here it is.
Ooh.
Check it out. It's,
Where do you get that?
you have to order it and have it shipped from the emu farm.
I am telling you, I used to live in the White Mountains of Arizona, and I am part Native American Indian, and so they said, when get your first elk or whatever, you have to eat the heart. And I thought, it was so amazing,
Good, isn't it?
and I never felt better eating a piece of meat or organ meat, which I hardly ever did, from any creature. And let me tell you, it's very interesting. When, back in the cowboy days, the cowboys would say, we're going hunting. And the Indians would say, well, why don't you just go where the game is? Because the Indians, from eating the heart, they now could smell the elk or the buffalo or bison from about 3 miles away. And I can tell you, to this day, I could smell elk.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's just like, oh, there's elk. And my friend's husband, he's like, yeah, about how far? And I'm like, guessing 3 miles? I have no idea where the hell this came from. It just came in, right? And he goes, that'd be my guess. About 3 miles.
The wisdom that we have access to if we start living in an appropriate species appropriate way is mind-blowing.
It is. Truly, it is.
When you were talking about how the Asian community makes use of every aspect of the meat, that's honoring the kill.
Yes.
And honoring is, to me, is really important, an important part of life, of respect, of healing. You cannot disregard anything's life and expect to have 100% healing of yourself emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually.
That's right. That's why the closer you get to where your food is raised, you know how it was raised, you know who raised it. The most spiritual experience I ever had was when we started getting raw milk from an Amish farm, and we met the daughter, Hannah, who did the milking, and we knew the parents. And like now, milk was all a spiritual experience for us. It's
Right.
that's really important.
A lot of people don't even grasp that, and that's just the beauty of it all, isn't it? How many people are raising their own chickens now?
Oh, we
Yeah.
just got chickens.
Yes, they're raising their own eggs. They're having their own eggs. I'm watching my daughter, who's done years of school, and she is an ERRN, right? And she is she's a ball breaker, man. If something needs to get done, she's making it happen. But my daughter has this little weird energy in her that I see in myself, and she is making tinctures and has passion flower tea or whatever it is, making tinctures out of like mosses and mushrooms and crazy stuff for immune disorders. So she's doing these things and doing this medicine thing and keeping the doctors straight from giving someone a medicine that's going to kill them because they're taking this other crappy stuff, right?
Wow.
I mean, she's dancing this amazing tight wire,
How exciting.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but we all have the most amazing things. Oh, she's got chickens. So she's got chickens, and she is so excited by the eggs. I mean, it's like when she goes out there every day, she's like, oh my God, Mom, this one chicken always lets me pick her up, and this other one's always kind of freaked out, and this one they thought was going to die, so they named it Nuggets. And So, it's just like, so Nug, then now they call her Nug, and Nug's doing so much better. Remember when the dog got her? And,
I remember.
yeah, so I mean, it's like she's finding this whole different space to live. I love that.
Yeah. When I talked,
More heart-centered space to be, that your life starts connecting into some meaningful experience, like the everyday, the wonders of normal everyday activities just open up like little rainbows.
I really enjoyed meeting your daughter. She's
Oh,
amazing.
I know. Those two were talking chicken talk.
Let me tell you, these chicken girls, they can't talk enough about their chickens. You have to talk about her chickens.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't been brave enough. I've got
Labradoodle is the favorite pet now. Well, it's really fun to connect with you, ladies. I really appreciate you taking an interest in this topic and picking it up for your own health. Anytime someone's like learning about oxalate, improving their health, is really thrills me. So thank you.
Does me too. And I'm really happy you took the time out. I know we had to reschedule once. We are so grateful that you came on.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having you back on here. I'm going to let Candy. take it.
Our screen just wouldn't turn on. All of a sudden, it just took a dump, and we're like, oh. So we got that repaired. It was an easy fix. The company just sent us a new plug. It was just the plug. So got that fixed, but
We have to be plugged in to work, don't we?
well, no, right? But it was plugged in. It just the whole thing just stopped working. I guess the plug broke. Anyways, so I was just
Sounds like an oxalate problem.
right. So I was just going to wrap it up and was wondering if you would stay on for a few minutes with us, and we'll just we'll talk amongst ourselves real quick before we say goodnight. And I know you must be really tired. It's late over there, and so I'll say goodnight now. Good night, family. Mods, thank you so much for being in the chat and always showing up every time we have a show. And we'll let you guys know next time that we go live. And please share this information. Share this video with your family, with your friends, with your Facebook, with your Twitter, with your everyone. And
This is shared with everyone.
yes. And we love you all.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you. Bye.
Hang on one second. I need to see better. Can I talk, Candy?
Probably not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Always go with the choice that scares you the most, because it's the choice that's going to help you grow.
Wow.
I can't do negative today. Positive vibes.
Hey, best friend. Wait. To the person seeing this, I know you're tired. I know you're fed up and so close to breaking. But remember, you have strength within you even when you feel weak. Keep fighting, best friend.